to Gas Monkey Tequila.
Well,
What
it's
else?
temporary down right now because
What?
I had to get rid of Discovery, so I had to shut it down for a minute. The production house and Discovery, and they tried to take what was mine, and they didn't get it.
Nobody expected the lawsuit to come from inside the brand. Richard Rawlings built Gas Monkey Garage from nothing, turned it into a television phenomenon, watched in over 100 countries, and stretched the name across restaurants, music venues, and merchandise. Then, in June 2018, the very bar that carried his name walked into a Dallas County courtroom and sued him for $6 million. Fans were confused. Critics were stunned. And the details that came out of that legal battle painted a picture that was far messier than anyone watching Fast and Loud ever could have imagined. This is the real story. Who Richard Rawlings was before the lawsuit hit. To understand how a man ends up being sued by a business that carries his own name, you have to first understand exactly who Richard Rawlings is and how far he had come by the time the lawsuit papers were filed. Richard Rawlings was born on March 30th, 1969, in Fort Worth, Texas, and grew up going to auto shows with his father. That early exposure to car culture planted something in him that never left. By the time he was 14 years old, he had already purchased his first car, a green 1974 Mercury Comet. And from that moment forward, every job he ever took was simply a means to feed his automotive obsession. Before most people his age had even figured out what they wanted to do with their lives, Rawlings had already worked as a firefighter, a police officer, and a paramedic, all before he turned 21. None of those careers was ever going to hold him. In 1999, he launched a printing and advertising company called Lincoln Press, built it into a profitable operation, and then made the decision that would change everything. He sold it and poured the proceeds into a new venture in Dallas, Texas. In 2002, Gas Monkey Garage opened its doors, and Rawlings finally had the platform he had been building toward. The shop specialized in finding, restoring, customizing, and flipping classic cars and hot rods for collectors across the world. It was grease, horsepower, and hustle wrapped up in one building. The garage developed a reputation for bold builds and quick turnarounds, but its global recognition did not come until Discovery Channel came calling. After years of pitching the concept to networks, Rawlings finally landed a deal, and Fast and Loud premiered on June 6, 2012, introducing the world to the loud, deal-chasing personality behind Gas Monkey Garage. The show ran for 16 seasons and became one of the most watched automotive programs in the world, broadcasting in more than 100 countries. Rawlings also appeared in national television commercials for Dodge vehicles beginning in 2014, and went on to co-host Garage Rehab on Discovery starting in 2017, a show that followed him as he helped struggling automotive shops overhaul their entire operations. By the time the lawsuit against him was filed in 2018, Rawlings was at the height of his brand's recognition. The Gas Monkey name was on merchandise, energy drinks, and entertainment venues across Dallas. He had the kind of cultural footprint that most entrepreneurs spend their entire lives chasing, and the bar that now wanted $6 million from him was one he had personally helped bring to life. Understanding that irony requires going back to 2013, when the licensing deal that started everything was first signed. In September 2013, Rawlings helped establish Gas Monkey Bar and Grill in Northwest Dallas, opening a second location at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in March 2014. The bar was not owned outright by Rawlings. Instead, through a licensing agreement signed in 2013, he gave the rights to use the Gas Monkey trademark and logos to a group of investors that included brothers Daniel and Mike Flaherty of United Commercial Realty, Peter Orr of Talent Live Nation, and Alex Mendonça. From the outside, it looked like an extension of the Gas Monkey empire. From the inside, according to court documents, the cracks were already forming before the first customer ever walked through the door. Now that you know who Richard Rawlings was, and exactly how the Gas Monkey brand came to carry his name on a bar he did not own, the backstory of how this lawsuit developed starts to make a whole different kind of sense. Because the trouble did not start in 2018. It started years earlier during construction, when nobody was watching closely enough. How years of conflict between Rawlings and the bar finally exploded into court. What made the 2018 lawsuit so explosive was not the filing itself. It was everything that came out afterward. Court documents pulled back the curtain on a relationship between Rawlings and the bar's management that had been deteriorating since before the establishment even opened. The problems went back to the construction phase, well before any customer ever ordered a drink or heard a band play on that outdoor stage. In May 2013, Tim Hinkhouse, an employee at the bar at the time, sent an email to management describing Rawlings's behavior on the construction site. The email described Rawlings as extremely disruptive, stated that his treatment of construction workers was beyond unacceptable, and compared his behavior to that of a spoiled 13-year-old. That email was later included as evidence in the 2018 lawsuit. According to bar manager Daniel Flaherty, things got so bad that Rawlings was actually banned from the construction site entirely, as his behavior continued to disrupt work progress on the building. Once the bar opened in September 2013, the friction did not stop. Flaherty's position in the lawsuit was that Rawlings had consistently tried to insert himself into daily operations and usurp control of a business he did not have the legal authority to run. The license gave Rawlings's trademark to the bar, but it never gave Rawlings ownership or operational authority over the franchise. That distinction would become absolutely central to everything that followed. The tension escalated significantly in 2015 when Rawlings sent an email to Flaherty and the other investors claiming that a large number of financial records were missing and accusing them of dishonesty. Flaherty responded by openly inviting Rawlings to come to the bar and audit the books whenever he wanted, making clear that the financial records existed and were accessible. When Rawlings pressed further, claiming he did not believe the records even existed, Flaherty pushed back with documentation of his previous invitations. Rawlings eventually backed down, sending an email that acknowledged his mistake and blamed his behavior on mixing alcohol and emotions. That apology did not end the hostility. In 2017, a third-party buyer made an agreement with Gas Monkey Bar to acquire the rights to the franchise. Rawlings, who had previously attempted to acquire those rights himself in 2016, but reportedly lacked sufficient funds to complete the deal, again accused Flaherty of financial mismanagement. According to the lawsuit, those accusations derailed the third-party buyout, costing the bar what would have been a significant transaction. Gas Monkey Bar's management filed the defamation lawsuit in June 2018, seeking $6 million in damages, accusing Rawlings of deliberate and deceitful attempts to escape his contractual obligations while spreading slanderous statements about Flaherty and the bar's operations. Rawlings' attorney, Austin Champion, responded immediately, stating that the bar had been in breach of the licensing agreement from day one and that the lawsuit was nothing more than a fabricated last-ditch attempt to recover the license after Rawlings terminated the relationship. The lawsuit named Richard Rawlings personally, the production company behind Fast and Loud, and Gas Monkey Holdings. It was not a quiet dispute between business partners. It was a public legal brawl that called into question the integrity of one of cable television's most recognizable personalities, and the media paid close attention. But the lawsuit from the bar was only the first punch. What came next is where things got even more legally complicated, because Rawlings decided not to sit quietly and let the $6 million claim go unanswered. He hit back, and what he accused the bar of doing raised the stakes of the entire legal fight considerably. The countersuit, the trademark battle, and the fallout that changed everything. Rawlings did not simply respond to the defamation lawsuit through his attorney. About a month before formally filing his own legal action, he sent a cease and desist letter directly to Daniel Flaherty and Gas Monkey Bar, giving them 10 days to stop using the Gas Monkey name and all associated trademarks. When Flaherty declined to comply, Rawlings followed through. In March 2019, Rawlings filed a countersuit in Dallas County, seeking $1 million in damages for copyright infringement. His legal team argued that the original licensing agreement between Rawlings and the bar had automatically terminated in late 2018, meaning every subsequent use of the Gas Monkey name, logo, and trademarks was unauthorized. Rawlings alleged that the bar continued promoting events and products on social media using his intellectual property even after the license had lapsed, including events that he described as disparaging, lewd, and sexually suggestive content that contradicted the brand identity he had worked years to build. The bar, for its part, disputed the claim that the license had terminated, and the two sides entered a legal standoff that would stretch over multiple years. The courtroom battle sat underneath both the defamation claims the bar had filed against Rawlings and the trademark infringement claims Rawlings had filed against the bar. There were now two active lawsuits pointing in opposite directions, and neither side appeared willing to concede. While the legal proceedings continued, the Gas Monkey live music venue that had been connected to the brand also suffered. The venue had opened in October 2014, but closed in May 2020, citing financial strain. The lengthy legal dispute had damaged the reputation of the business and created ongoing uncertainty that made normal operations increasingly difficult to sustain. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic arrived and applied a final, unavoidable pressure. The bar closed its doors for approximately 6 months during the 2020 shutdowns, which accelerated the financial deterioration that the legal fight had already set in motion. With both lawsuits still unresolved and the business struggling to recover from the pandemic closure, it became clear that something had to give. According to court records, in August 2021, both parties entered into a joint dismissal of all claims and announced that a settlement had been reached. The terms of the settlement were not publicly disclosed, which strongly suggested that a non-disclosure agreement was signed between both sides. Neither Rawlings nor Flaherty made disparaging statements about each other following the resolution, and the litigation chapter quietly closed. The aftermath, however, was anything but quiet. The original Gas Monkey Bar and Grill location in Northwest Dallas underwent a complete transformation, rebranding in September 2021 as Amplified Live. All of Rawlings's automotive memorabilia was stripped from the walls. The branded tchotchkes, the garage aesthetic, and every visual connection to the Gas Monkey name were removed. In their place came Marshall amp cabinets, electric guitars, and a venue makeover that emphasized food and music over car culture. Managing partner Alex Mendonça stated publicly that the venue had no connection to Rawlings or the Gas Monkey brand in any capacity, and that the rebrand represented an opportunity to focus entirely on what the venue actually did best. Rawlings retained the rights to the Gas Monkey trademark through it all, which meant his ability to build new establishments under that name remained intact. The Dallas location simply moved forward without him, and a new chapter began for both sides. The dust from that legal battle had barely settled when something even more striking came to light. Despite the public damage the lawsuit had caused and the years of drawn-out conflict, Rawlings was already thinking about what came next, and what he did with the Gas Monkey name after all of that says everything about the kind of businessman he is. What Richard Rawlings did after the lawsuit and where the Gas Monkey brand stands in 2026. Most people who walk away from a multi-year defamation battle involving a $6 million lawsuit and a $1 million countersuit would probably take some time off from building new hospitality ventures. Rawlings is not most people. Even while the lawsuit was still playing out, he was laying plans for what would come after it. He had already launched Richard Rawlings's Garage in Harker Heights, Texas, in 2016 as a separate restaurant concept, though that location permanently closed in March 2019. The failure of that venue did not dampen his appetite for expansion. After the Gas Monkey Bar settlement wrapped in August 2021, Rawlings moved forward with fresh ambitions under the Gas Monkey name, this time retaining full control rather than licensing the brand out to outside investors. Gas Monkey Ice House opened in May 2025 in the Colony, Texas, at a development called Grandscape, featuring 28 beers on tap and hosting regular pop-up car shows that connected the venue to the automotive culture the brand was built on. A separate Gas Monkey location opened in Sturgis, South Dakota in 2024, positioned directly across from the Sturgis Harley-Davidson store and designed to capture the enormous foot traffic generated by the annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Both locations operate under Rawlings' direct ownership and control, which represents a fundamental shift from the licensing arrangement that led to the original lawsuit. The lesson Rawlings appeared to take from the entire Gas Monkey Bar situation aligned closely with a broader strategic evolution he had already been pursuing. Around 2017, he had begun canceling third-party licensing deals across the brand, recognizing that licensing his intellectual property to outside parties created volume without margin, and, as the bar lawsuit eventually proved, created legal and reputational risks that could spiral badly. According to reporting on his business strategy, Rawlings made the decision to bring all of his intellectual property in-house, allowing him to capture higher margins by selling directly to his audience rather than through third-party arrangements that gave others control over how his name was used. When his contract with Discovery ended in 2020, he faced a crossroads that many television personalities eventually encounter. The easy route would have been chasing another television contract and trying to recreate the same formula somewhere else. Instead, he chose a path that reflected where entertainment itself was heading. Rather than relying on another network executive or production company, Richard Rawlings decided to take his audience directly with him and build something he completely controlled. He shifted much of his attention toward YouTube, turning the Gas Monkey Garage channel into far more than a collection of clips and leftover television content. It became a direct connection between Rawlings and the millions of people who had followed his journey for years. By the mid-2020s, the channel had accumulated more than 600 videos and surpassed 300 million total views, proving that the audience was willing to follow the brand outside traditional television. Unlike network partnerships, where programming decisions and creative direction often involve multiple layers of approval, YouTube gave Rawlings something much more valuable: ownership. No licensing partner could interfere with the content, restrict its reach, or eventually take it away. He continued expanding his media presence beyond videos as well. Rawlings launched the Monkey Trap podcast, a platform where he could move beyond tightly edited television segments and discuss everything from car builds and business ventures to personal experiences and stories from his life. The podcast allowed fans to see a more unfiltered side of him. The business empire itself continued to grow. Rawlings expanded into garage beer through an equity partnership with the Kelsey brothers, while also developing new ventures, including a tequila brand and a coffee subscription service. Fast and Loud officially concluded after 16 seasons and approximately 250 episodes when Rawlings separated from Discovery Channel in 2020. Although the series had become the driving force behind Gas Monkey's worldwide popularity, Rawlings later explained that the contract came with significant limitations, including restrictions on publicly posting about vehicles he purchased unless television cameras were present. Walking away from the deal ultimately meant giving up television security in exchange for complete creative and financial control over the future of Gas Monkey. As of 2026, Richard Rawlings' estimated net worth sits between $18 million and $25 million, built across car flipping profits, merchandise sales, television earnings, brand partnerships, speaking appearances, real estate, and his growing portfolio of hospitality venues. The Gas Monkey Garage itself continues to operate in Dallas as a media-forward automotive brand focused on premium content, events, and high-end custom builds rather than a traditional walk-in repair shop. The legal battle with Gas Monkey Bar may have looked like a threat to everything Rawlings had built, but in hindsight, it appears to have accelerated a shift he was already making. The lawsuit forced a clean separation from a licensing arrangement that was never going to serve either side well. The bar rebranded and moved on. Rawlings reclaimed his trademark, tightened control over the Gas Monkey name, and opened new venues that he owns completely. The Gas Monkey brand that exists in 2026 is leaner, more directly controlled, and more strategically focused than the one that stumbled into a $6 million lawsuit in 2018. That does not erase the years of accusations, the email trail of financial disputes, the banned construction site visits, or the public damage the lawsuit caused. It simply means that what came out of all of it was a more deliberate version of the same relentless drive that built the brand in the first place. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.